I guess I'll just start with an overview of the painting. I need to stand slightly above it in order to avoid light problems and to give as accurate an image as I can to you guys. There's much that you cannot see, on the video that I can see in person, so I'll just do my best to represent it. But I'm going to consider this painting done. It is going to need a step 6 in places, definitely. I have a pretty good idea where, but I'm just going to leave it for the time being. I'm going to bring it upstairs and live with it, make my decisions later. But I've got my water in place now. I have my reflections more or less where I want them. I think it works well with the design. I'm going to I'll put the camera back on the tripod here, and I will sit down in front of it and just point out some of the colors. When you grunt every time you sit down, you know you're over 40 or maybe over 50 or maybe more. Anyway, I'm going to call this my roommate now for the next bit. This painting needs to be shipped, and when you consider that the price of gas now has hit $50 a liter, the shipping companies of course need to charge quite a bit more. So I will not ship one painting at a time. I'm going to do several others and put them together as a package. So I have until those other paintings are done to decide what I want to do with this one. So it'll be a while. I'm going to call it finished. I know of a couple of things I'd like to do to it. Step 6-y things. And that's alright. I'm just going to see what reveals itself to me over the next while. There may be more, but in general I'm quite happy with it. Like I say, not much needs to be done. Almost insignificant stuff you probably wouldn't even see on the camera. So we're calling it finished, and I know I've gone through all the colors with you on the painting, and I said I would review them, but it's kind of pointless to do it twice. But I think I should point out what I have in the water here. And let's see here, a little bit of a blob there. Okay, there we go. So, I've talked about ambient light being used in the water, and that's more or less what I've done here. I've had a few reflections. Now, of course, these reflections are not the colors of these bushes. If you were close to them and it was a very still pond, you'd be kind of forced, to keep the painting plausible, you'd be kind of somewhat forced to do that. I don't have to do that. There's texture, right from here, right to the distance. It's picking up any color that's in the painting. Not just through reflection, but through refraction from underneath the water. So we have the light, the actual only direct sunlight is splashing across the water and reaching up onto these bushes just in this area. These clouds kind of sweep down like this in general, and I wanted to oppose that by bringing reflections down in this direction, so that that helps to balance things out a little bit. Otherwise I would have ended up with a painting that was top left, bottom right. Your eye just would sort of run. I felt I was uncomfortable with the way that the viewer's eye would run, so that's why I did that. I'm going to play with this a little bit yet, but it's pretty much it. Okay, so on the water back here, that's raw umber, cobalt blue. That's mostly it. A bit of titanium white, maybe a little bit of, a hint of yellow ochre in it as well. Then I've come to here. That's pretty much yellow ochre and ultramarine blue. And then we increase the yellow ochre and the white and reduce the ultramarine blue for this splashing across here. You know, in the brightest spots, it's really just yellow ochre and white. Then we come down into here, and I've added a hint of raw umber, and we get a little lower, and we go to adding a bit of alizarin crimson. We have splashes here that are actually cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, a bit of white, or a lot of white, and a bit of alizarin crimson. Here we have ultramarine blue and these darker purple areas. So ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and white, and a bit of yellow ochre. I'm never going pure purple in the distance because they need to be toned down. They need to be moderated. I have the strongest colors in the land masses, and the water is more of an ethereal feel. You know, it's a softer thing. This painting is not, even though part of the water comprises the focal area, the subject isn't really the water. The subject is this land. You know, this is really here. Or the focal area is really here. So I've made up for a lack of strong color by raising the value. Then we come down lower, and I start to raise the chroma a little bit just to keep it interesting. Here we have raw umber, alizarin crimson, yellow ochre, and a hint of cobalt blue in this sort of brownish, reddish, slightly purple. Here I've gone back on a few of these strokes to ultramarine blue and yellow ochre and a bit of white. Now we've gone to raw umber and a bit of alizarin crimson, a hint of yellow ochre and white. Now we've gone down to ultramarine blue, raw umber, and that's about it. I mean, maybe a hint of white in places here. You know, to point out each stroke's a bit difficult because you've got such a medley here, but they're more or less all related to each other. The shadows here, that's ultramarine blue, raw umber, hints of white, you know, in the darker areas. Coming over here, this shadow below the rocks is ultramarine blue. Actually a little bit of burnt sienna, and raw umber, and a bit of white. Without that hint of white, it becomes so dark you don't see the color anymore. And that's fine on some paintings, not on this one. I wanted to always have a little bit of above zero value, you know, to show it. And then we've gone into this. This is mostly variations of ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and yellow ochre. And then we get into these greens, which are, well, ultramarine blue, a bit of raw umber, and yellow ochre, sort of muddyish greens. Anyway, you can see there's a plethora of colors in this area here. I've mentioned that sometimes I'm indecisive in my water. And sometimes water is quite a challenge for me. It was in this one as well. It's not done. But I really like to have a variety of color. There has to be a medley. It brings a richness to the painting. Certainly when you have that much area that's water. Now, the water, there's so many varying brushstrokes in the water that, you know, a bit of a sparkle is created, and then you come to a landmass, and the strokes are a little, you know, square, more direct, simpler, and so that makes for a very strong design. When you have multiple smaller brushstrokes, the design tends to weaken. So that's why, you know, I need to be careful not to make it too weak. This, you know, this water visually has to have enough strength and enough visual weight to it to support the entire scene. Certainly, because this sky is actually pretty heavy with its low values, its dark colors. I think it's good. I think it works. But I may still just touch it here and there. I don't know. Anyway, that always scares me. I think I managed to pull it off okay though. Alright, I guess that's it for this painting. I don't know if, yeah, I probably mentioned that weather's getting a little better. Today the weather's nice, but it's really windy. And when it's really windy, good luck setting up an easel outside and painting. So it's kind of got to be decent. Certainly wind is as bad as rain, and I won't do oil paints in the rain because you compromise the workmanship of the painting itself. You don't want to be painting over top of, painting oil paint over raindrops, because there will be no chemical bond and no mechanical bond, and you'll have problems with peeling in no time. Nice romantic notion, but not realistic. And if we don't get, as I said, nice enough weather that I can go out and do smaller panels, I'm going to go get probably a couple of 2024s. You know, this is 24 inches in height. 24, like two 24s, you could put them face to face and they would ship well. Or, you know, another, or 2024, whatever. You know, you can figure it out mathematically. I always try to make it so that when I ship a crate, the paintings measurement-wise match well, and that way they all sort of fit, and I try to maximize I try to keep it efficient, my use of space in a crate. Blithering again. Thanks for watching. I'm glad you came along with me. I'm so happy you came. I'm going to do a little jig. Okay? Okay, no. I won't. See you guys. We'll talk to you on the next one.